Hello, thanks for inviting me to this Lunch and Learn. Today I'm just going to present to you basically the information about Technology Service Desk. The Technology Service Desk, we are the single point of contact for all of your technology related needs. We pretty much act as a liaison between all of the instructional and campus technology departments in order to communicate and to decrease your time to a resolution towards any type of issue that you may call into the service desk. So with that being said, the service desk, we just chose a couple of topics that we felt may be helpful for all administrative staff, program assistants to be familiar with. So I will begin with a resource. One of the primary resources that each and every one of you will use, if you haven't already used it at some point, is the Technology Wiki. So within the Technology Wiki, that's where you can refer to the wiki in order to receive how-to information and any other specific support functions that are tied to the university, specific to Elon. So one of the first places that you can refer to as a resource would be the Technology Wiki. If you have a situation or a question that comes up and you're not quite sure what the answer is, search within the wiki. So that is very useful, and we want everyone to be familiar with the Technology Wiki because that's available even outside of our office hours. That's available 24/7. Wireless access for guests. That is something that comes up, you may have someone that's just in the community, stop by your office, and they need access to the wireless. Or they say, do you have a username and password to where I can get access to the network? So with that being said, they're right in front of you, you're wanting to assist them as quickly as possible. So we have a process that is set up within the wiki. You would actually go to the Technology Wiki and you could search for the wireless guest account. The actual document is wireless access for guest. And there is a link that is provided within that document to where you can actually log in with your username and password, and you can create that guest account for them specifically. Now one of the things that's the advantage or the beauty of that is basically whenever you are creating that account, you are sponsoring that guest. So you need to know pretty much who they are, who they're affiliated with, and feel comfortable providing them with a username and password. The account can be set up 30 days in advance, and you can extend that access to say, if they told you they were going to be here today and they'll be here tomorrow as well, you can extend that up to 48 hours. And that's something that you can do. Now some of the helpful tips that I've included on this slide is that guests must use the Elon U-Guest wireless network. So if they're on their mobile device and they are currently, they would have to search for the wireless network, and that is the Elon U-Guest is the one that they have to use in order to use the account that you provide to them. They must be at least 16 years or older. If they are below the age of 16, then there is a parental consent form that has to be filled out before you would supply them with the username and password. And so what do you need? I guess some of you are probably asking, what is it that you would need from the user in order to create that? And you would tie it to their email username, their email address. So for instance, mine would be mwoods@elon.edu. It could be an outside Gmail account. It can be any email addresses, but you will need that in order to create that for them. Another important factor to remember here, this is for their personal devices, their iPad, their cell phones. It's not on Elon University owned machines. So if they are they're going to be in a computer lab, someone should be overseeing that process. Then that is a whole nother process to where that has to be routed through the service desk for the guest accounts. And this is what we're leading to now, which is the domain and wireless access for guests. There's a couple of points here that number one, if they are going to be logging onto an Elon University-owned machine, they would need to be routed through the service desk in order to receive that username and password. And those usernames begin with GST, and that just stands for guest, and then they're going to be numeric numbers or letters, and that password is one that's going to have, a capital Y. It's very odd characters within that. So it would need to be routed through the service desk. Let's see, so they would have to be hosted by a faculty or staff member as another criteria there. This will get them on the wireless network or any university-owned machine. What else? There again, there's the little clause saying, if this user is below, or the guest is below the age of 16, then there is a parental consent form that has to be filled out for that. And just as, the faculty or staff that is calling the service desk on behalf of this guest, you are pretty much taking responsibility for providing this information to them. So I would you should know who that person is, because that kind of goes into the security, and we just want to make sure that we're not allowing someone who really should not be accessing our network on the network. So with that being said, request that, say if you contact the service desk and this is something that you need immediately, we should be able to accommodate that, and we will go ahead and create the account as we have you on the phone. And we would send that account information directly to your email. We should email that to you or verbally communicate that over the phone. And then you would relay that to the guest who's here or whoever needs access for that. And I actually oversee the group wireless access accounts, so some of you I'm sure are familiar with that process. But if you have I say more than 10 people that are going to be here on campus and they're going to be using a computer lab or they're going to be using university-owned machines, then there is a process that needs to be followed in order to request that username and password for those guests. And that process is pretty much, if you have a registration for the users that are coming in here, if it's people from outside of the university, if you have a registration process, you would need to include or provide to us the individuals' names that you're going to be distributing this username and password to. And usually the way that works, once we create those accounts, you can only create it, say, 7 days ahead of time because they expire within 7 days. So sometimes it needs to be closer to the event before I can actually create the username and password and email it back to you. So those are important things, really, that I think everyone should at least be familiar with that process and understand how that works. The next topic is print management. So I'm sure most of you all here have heard about print management, or you have people just walk up to say, how do I print? I would like to print to a print station. What is it that I need to do? So within that, I've actually provided the URL, the link. This is also within the Technology Wiki. And the most important things in my mind, I think that you would need to know there is, number one, we need to find out, are they wanting to print to a Xerox printer, or are they wanting to print to one of the HP printers? Most of the time it's the HP printers. And then they would need to know what operating system they have, where you see, I guess I can point right here, like the Windows 32, Windows 64, or Mac. Those are the three separations there that if they are unsure what operating system they have, then they can contact the service desk and we'll be glad to walk them through trying to locate, because it's very important that they download the proper driver. So once they download the driver, the next important piece to me is that in most cases they will have to, how you select the printer? The printer for the new Faro station is HP-devices on Faro 01. To begin with, when we were implementing that was kind of confusing to some people, just knowing that is what you need to select to print. An additional piece of information there is that whenever they're no longer naming their jobs, it just prompts them to log in with their username. So that would just be, say, your email address. Mine's mwoods, and you do not include the @elon.edu. And that actually gives them the ability, to me the beauty of all of this is that once you send a job to print, you can print it from Belk, you can print it from Alamance, you can print it from wherever there is a print management station. That's the beauty of it all, is that you can go wherever it's convenient for you and you can print out that document. Now there's one important factor there. The documents are stored for up to 2 hours. So if you send something to print, you should be prepared to print it within 2 hours. If not, those jobs are automatically purged from the system. So we've had, in a couple of situations, we've had people say, well, my job isn't showing up, but that is because of the timing, could potentially be. So that's just something to keep in mind there as well. So does anyone have any questions on the print management station? I mean, I'm just trying to give the high-level overview of some of the things that I think would be of importance to everyone. Yes?
Are the print management stations, are they in every academic building? Are they identified in some way?
Good question, Mel. They are, whenever you view, if you go to the print management printer installs, well actually this is the page. We do have the locations of where the print management stations are located. Is that what you're asking? And they should be in every academic building should have a print management station. Yes.
So those Recos that don't come with the Mac, are they going to be converted?
Yes, that's a good question as well. Actually, the next slide is on Rico Copiers. We've got a couple of different things for the Recos. Basically, you would go to the instructions and driver install. It works similar to what the print management stations would be. Some of the specific things that stand out to me is that, number one, the drivers, and some people are specifically set up for 32-bit operating systems. So if you had, for whatever reason, you had a machine and it was a 64-bit, currently that will not, you would not be able to install that. But normally, in most cases, the computers that are here on campus are 32-bit operating systems, and the Rico is compatible for both Mac and PCs. So you go through that installation process. The additional piece there is that, and most of you already know that, you have to add the budget code. So anyone that configures the Rico is going to have to add in that budget code, and any of the print jobs that are sent to the Rico would be charged to that budget, to your departmental budget. Sometimes I know we get calls from new hires that are just currently here on, have just arrived, and maybe they're just questioning that, and so we would have to refer them back to the program assistants or to someone who would actually give them that checkpoint of saying, yes, it's okay that you configure the Rico and you charge to our departmental budget number. But in some cases, most cases with new hires, they don't have access to that, and they shouldn't until someone provides them that information. So that's installing the Rico. For program assistants, some of you all here are already familiar with purchasing the Rico toner cartridges from the MyRico site. We have designated people that are, that's their responsibility for ordering those toner cartridges. The toner cartridges are supplied at no charge, so you should not be charged for toner cartridges. The staples, there is a charge for staples. So if you refer to the Technology Wiki, the link that I've provided here, it gives you the breakdown of non-chargeable items, which would be the toner cartridges, and then you would have the chargeable items, which the primary thing I think we use it for are the staples. Yes, ma'am.
When you mentioned to not reply to the calls, I don't know if anybody else has gotten a call about getting a toner cartridge, and then it's sent to you, and then your bill, you get an invoice. Has anybody else got that call? Well, I got a call from some random place, and they said that they were our supplier and that the toner cartridge was now being sent at a cheaper price.
Okay, so that's one of those scams, I guess, trying to get through.
So I just mailed it back, and I didn't open it.
Okay, yeah. Now, if there is an era, I know we have had a couple of situations maybe to where you do receive, for whatever reason, there is an invoice. Those are the ones that we have to have someone research those, because according to our contract, the toners are supplied at no charge. So I just thought it would be very helpful for you all to know that. And of course, like the staples, we will have to pay for those. In addition to that, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
It's regularly serviced. I haven't seen anybody in a couple of years come through and check hours or anything.
For the Ricos, I know, are they regular service? If there is an issue with it and there's a problem reported through the service desk, we have our technicians they would go out and take that initial look, and then if there is additional we would contact Rico or Icon to come here and actually do the service on the machines.
Not regular check.
But not regularly, not that I'm aware of. I don't think so. It's basically just upon request, as situations arise. The additional piece here, I think, too, is that if you are the designated person that's responsible for purchasing toner cartridges for that specific Reco, of course, you're going to be asked for the EID number when you call the service desk. So if you have that available, that makes it very helpful for us, the location and EID number. You can actually register anyone. So if you have a backup, say for instance you're going on vacation or you're going to study abroad for a month and you need someone to purchase the toner when you're out, they can follow that same registration process, and you can set up multiple people to actually purchase the supplies. It's just that it's all tied to that EID number.
Here's a question about you. Michelle,
Okay.
backing up just a little bit to the Rico driving stop, Elements 305 is not MAP compatible. Is there an anticipated
There is
update?
not, basically, from my understanding on that, there is a chip that it's like a hardware chip that actually has to be installed on the equipment, and there's a fee for that, and it's, not to quote the fee, but it's like a monthly fee if I'm not mistaken. So it would have to go through, I would say start with your immediate supervisor or the dean of the department to see if they would be interested. If they're willing to pay whatever that fee is, then it could be considered. It just depends on if that approval goes through. But to my knowledge, I don't think there is anything for the Alamance 305. Mel, do you have something to add to that?
I was just going to add, when you're ordering online, your staples or the colored toner, I think if you get like the magenta or another color, it's not free, is that correct?
The magenta, all of the colors are free. Toner cartridges, period. If you're ordering the cyan, magenta, yellow, black and white, all of those are included in our contract.
So with the staples,
But
when you're ordering it online, you're supposed to use your Pro card?
yes, yes. And that's where it's best just to keep them separate. If you're ordering your toner, I would process that at one time. If you're ordering staples, process that separately, because just based off of what I understand, that kind of works out better, processing those orders. All right, any other questions? Sure.
We get the recyclables, the tubes, in purchasing. Sometimes we get them back not empty. It's a good point to, when the message comes on the copier and it says replace toner, well, it's not, it's kind of giving you a warning, but it can last for another 3 months.
Gotcha. So,
And we get toner back at least half full sometimes.
all right, so that is a very good tip, just to let people know that you do not have to change it immediately whenever that message comes up, just to try to let it dwindle down until maybe it's very noticeable within the prints if you can. But that's a good tip. Thank you, Paula.
I think if you let it run to the end, it'll give a different kind of message.
Okay. It'll just stop. They're like, yes. Is that Debbie? Yes, Debbie.
I know that trick and I let it go for forever. But I have one issues where I just changed the toner like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there's not that many people using it
Okay.
during that time. And all of a sudden it's flashing again. And then it stops as if it's empty, and I take it out and it's full. It feels like it's full. and I'll shake it, put it back in, and it'll go for a little bit, and it stops again. So sometimes there's issues
Oh.
with the copier that's it's misreading it for whatever reason. So it'll be a
Okay, yes. Well,
That it catches the access, and when that gets full, it triggers the machine that says return engine. So you've got to call your service man, and you've got to take that tray out of the engine.
okay, well, those are very good tips. Yeah, thank you for sharing, because that's exactly what we need there. Right facts. It's getting close to the, yes.
Before you move ahead, I want to wait for you to finish that one. But backing up one more, if we don't have a print management printer in our building, is there a way to request that? Because we don't have one in Center for the Arts, and it would be very useful, especially now when all the adjuncts are in long to the building for things. And,
Right. So let me,
I mean, but we don't have like a study room or anything for students there either. It's just the copy room and that.
do you get requests from people that are wanting to print, or all the time? Okay, so you,
Really nervous about having them download the Rico, especially with the color capability,
exactly.
and then just printing everything out. So
Right, well, that's a good question. I'll be glad to speak to Dan, our director, and just find out what that approach would be to discuss that further and find out if there's any other options.
we have a lot of times
And the-
students and ask if there's someplace they can print something out.
Okay.
But from what Debbie was saying, is if they just swipe their fingers on it.
Yeah, so that would definitely take, for the students and the faculty and staff as well, as long as they configure that universal driver. That's a huge benefit for that. Okay, so let's move on to Right Facts. Right Facts allows users to be able to send and receive directly from their computers. So the way I kind of see this is that our goal eventually, and I know that they're just beginning, they've been working on this process of possibly eliminating the physical fax machines. The beauty of this would be, that you don't need the physical fax machine, it reduces paper usage, and then that it's convenient for the user, because if you have that number configured and it's configured on your machine, then you can actually send and receive faxes directly from your computer without having to get up and walk to one of the DocSend units and fax there. Now, this is only for faculty and staff, and if you don't have a Right Fax number and you would like to have one created, then you would just call in a request to the service desk, and then we could see about creating one for you. Now, the departmental fax numbers, I know one thing I wanted to point out here is that if you have an existing departmental fax number and they're transitioning your area over to Right Fax, you're not going to lose that number. We can keep the same number for any of the brochures or documentation that you have out. The key to that is that the faxes or emails can only be distributed to one inbox. So you would have one primary person that would oversee all of the faxes that are sent to your departmental account number. Yes, ma'am.
What do you do in a situation where you've got that one person's inbox that it comes to? What if that person's on vacation?
And then they're on.
And their supervisor's waiting for a very important or critical fax? What happens?
Right.
How do they access it?
Yeah. She wants you to repeat the question.
The question is, if a person in your office is the designated receiver of the Right Fax coming to their inbox, and if they're on vacation, what if there are other people in your office who are waiting on a fax?
Who need to access.
What happens?
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to access that fax if you're on vacation?
Yeah, because when
Right.
you're gone, I can't do it myself.
Right?
It's like, right. That's a good question. Mel, do you have something to add for that?
On that, there's two ways that the departments have done that. A lot of departments that have a departmental Right fax number, like say HR. HR's Right fax is assigned to their HR Elon.edu email address. And so there's more people than one person that accesses that email. So that would eliminate that. The other ones actually create a rule when they're going to be out of office that would forward anything that might have Right fax in the subject title to a designated backup.
Right, so basically that would just have someone overseeing that while you were out for, vacation or, thank you, Mel. Yeah, so that, yes,
If
Renee?
someone in your department has a right fax number and they leave, they exit Elon, do we need to notify someone, or does it just automatically go away?
It would be helpful to notify the service, I would call that request into the service desk and have us document it, and that way we are able to go into colleague and remove that number from that particular person. Yeah, so I would recommend calling that in for the ones that you're aware of. All right, so that's kind of an overview of right fax. And at this point, I just wanted to ask if there were any questions about what we've discussed. And if not, I will kind of turn it back over to Scott and we can go through some additional information.
Michelle.
Thank you.